Good afternoon. Welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. It is Tuesday, August the 13th, 2024, and it is program number 1230 of the Lunchroom. I'm your host, Alex George Jr. Now, in addition to radio on 101.1 FM, you can also get us at our website. It is rcistlucia.com. We are also streaming live on Facebook. Just search for the official page of Radio Caribbean International on Facebook. And please be sure to like and share that link as well with your friends and family. If you'd like to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, the number to call in is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. And we've also got a WhatsApp line. That number is 724-0008. If you want to message in, if you don't want your voice on air, you can message into WhatsApp, or you can call in as well. And again, that number is 724-0008. Some birthday greetings for today. First, we want to send out some greetings to former ambassador Eustace Vitalis. Many of you will know him as Chiny. Happy birthday to you, Chiny. And we do hope that you're having a fantastic birthday. Also sending birthday greetings to a gentleman who was did quite a lot for St. Lucia out on the road in terms of road races, Mr. Joseph, Zephrinus Joseph. Happy birthday to you, sir. And we're wishing you an absolutely fantastic birthday. And also birthday greetings going out to Mr. Augusta Degazo, the island's cabinet secretary. Happy birthday to you, and we're wishing you an absolutely fantastic birthday as well. Some history for today. Well, back in the year 1521, on this day, August the 13th, Spanish conquistadors under Hernan Cortez captured Aztec Emperor Cuauhtemoc, and that happened in the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan, marking the end of the Aztec Empire. In the year 1536, on this day, Buddhist monks from Kyoto's Enryaku temple set fire to 21 Nichiren temples throughout Kyoto in the Tenbun Hokke disturbance. In the year 1642, Dutch astronomer Christian Huygens discovered Mars's southern polar cap. 1788, on this day, saw Prussia joining the Anglo-Dutch alliance to form the Triple Alliance to prevent the spread of the Russo-Swedish War. 1937, on this day, the Second Sino-Japanese War, so Japanese forces begin the Battle of Shanghai, a conflict that will last 3 months and involve 1 million troops. And in 1942, on this day, the Manhattan Project commenced under the direction of U.S. General Leslie Groves with the aim of developing an atomic bomb. We now move on to our dish of the day. The daily dish is brought to you with the kind compliments of our good friends at Tiles Plus.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. This all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Brazilians, and Flag Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome back to our program for today. And I do hope that everybody's having a pretty blessed one. And over the weekend, there was actually an event which took place down in the Roseau Valley. Now, Roseau, as you would recall, is is known as one of the island's principal farming areas, one of the principal valleys for the production of agricultural products. And of course, in the times when the island was heavily dependent upon farming, upon agriculture for its economic livelihood, such areas were really, really important for the economy of the island. And of course, you would know that there were about those three major valleys and a major plain, which were responsible for a lot of the output, the agricultural output of the island, namely the Cul-de-Sac Valley, the Roseau Valley, the Mabuya Valley, sometimes called the Denry Valley, as well, although it's not, there's a separate Denry Valley, I should also point out, within which you actually have the village of Denry, but it's quite often Mabuya is also known as the Denry Valley, and also the Vieux Plain. And those were the four principal um, areas for the production of sugar. Sugar was not the original significant crop of St. Lucia. It actually started off being more dependent on products like coffee and as well cocoa. And those products actually required a certain temperature, usually a very milder temperature area. And so, which is why places like Soufrière were pretty important during those times, the early colonial period, because you actually had fairly high mountainous areas, which were very cool and pretty good for the growing of crops like coffee. And but later on, by the 1760s, when we saw the beginning of sugar in St. Lucia, and certainly by the 1800s, where there was a greater concentration in the production of sugar, these valleys became very, very critical in the production of sugar. Sugar liked the flatter um, areas that could have been easily tilled. And so those valley areas became pretty important for that purpose. In fact, there were a few other areas, of course, that you did have sugar production, and you can think, of course, the Bois d'Orge area, as well as the Marquis valleys, but these were smaller valleys. In fact, Roseau is the largest watershed on the island. In fact, as a result of that, and that's by virtue of the area that it actually drains. But in addition to that, in fact, it's also the most prolific watershed by virtue of the volume of water that is actually flowing through that Roseau River. And so, based on the acreages available, it became, in fact, a really important agricultural area. And what one can say, in fact, as well, by the 1870s, what you then had occurring was a sort of a centralization of sugar production in St. Lucia. There was the development of what were known as central factories or usines, and there were four such of these types of factories, which were considered very modern for their time, establishing one large factory which would have large machinery and which would mechanize the production of sugar cane, of sugar and molasses coming out of the sugar cane. And of course, as well, the other byproduct, which was really important, was that of alcohol. And so that took hold by the 1880s or thereabouts, and you saw the establishment of factories in Vieux, the remnants of which could potentially still be seen to some degree in the Latuni area, as well as other factories at Mabuya on the Limier side of the valley there in Mabuya, as well in the cul-de-sac area. Still could be seen the remnants of the old central factory, which is just south of the cul-de-sac river, sort of between the cul-de-sac river and Buckeye, where Buckeye is now located. And as well, in the case of Roseau, that factory still exists to this day, and perhaps is the one factory that comes out of that era that is still actually operating to this very day. And of course, that is the current home of St. Lucia Distillers, and that, of course, is the company that still produces our iconic, very well known spirits or rums that still are produced here in St. Lucia, things like Bounty and Chairman's and Admiral Rodney and the like. Very famously, of course, was that of the white rum, which is like, I think, what, 180 proof? 160 proof, sorry, about 80% alcohol. And those strong rums, which actually go back even far beyond the more recent bounties and chairmans and what have you. Of course, the name of that rum, Denros, coming from the two valley areas that, in fact, it was being produced from, the canes from these two valley areas, the Dennery and the Roseau, giving you Denros. So, of course, it has been a very important area for production of agriculture. But the system of agriculture, of course, that came out of that area was a highly exploitative form of agriculture. And we do know that a lot of it came out of the slavery period. And so the settlements that men were created largely uh, came out of these slave or enslaved settlements, which for effectively did not change very much for over 100 years since emancipation in 1838. And so you found that there was a certain resistance to really changing that system of production. Of course, in came by the 1950s. You saw a change in terms of the movement for workers' rights, and you saw the rise of labor movements and unions being formed, and the whole matter of improving the lot of individuals and their living conditions led to efforts to try to change the system that existed. Of course, in that post World War II period, what you also saw happening in one state, you had the dying out of sugar because of competition, very strong competition from other countries. But in addition to that, the rise in the demand for bananas. Bananas was becoming a more popular crop. At that time, it was largely being sourced from American farms, American owned farms in Latin America. The United Fruit Company, they owned large swaths of land in places like Honduras and Guatemala. And that's where the United Kingdom and Europe were getting lots of their bananas from at that time. And they wanted to be able to leverage their own colonies for the production of bananas. It had already been going on somewhat in the case of Jamaica. And so, in that post World War II era, the desire for Great Britain to actually increase its banana production and improve its balance of trade saw the shifting of St. Lucia's economy away from sugar and more towards bananas, to the point that sugarcane really came to an end. Cultivation of sugarcane in any large form came to an end by 1960, and what a good 15 years after the end of World War II. And so then we saw the rise of bananas, of course. And in those days, again, the shift that was witnessed was a large um, multinational interest coming out of the United Kingdom, that of the Van Geests, in fact, bought these large estates like Cul-de-sac, like Roseau, and the aim there was for a sort of a industrial scale type of production of bananas. And of course, in that vein as well, you saw efforts in such as changing how the crop was actually taken from the field down to the packing places or the production areas. And originally, that would have been done through the use of donkeys, donkey carts, and that sort of thing. But even during the sugar era, it had already been shifted across to rail. And so the use of rail in those valley areas was prevalent. So that, in fact, in some of these rail tracks, continued to be used and then are now, in fact, used just as roads primarily in many cases. And so you don't really see very much of the remnants of that. And of course, since that rise of bananas, you then saw lots of interest in banana research. And as a result, by 1966, there was the establishment in Roseau of what was then known as the Winban Research Facility, or the Research Center, which was in fact opened, I believe, by Queen Elizabeth II back in February of 1966. And it was seen as a pretty important center for research into bananas across the entire region. And so that, of course, was a major player within the context of that Roseau Valley. Of course, there's a lot to capture within the context of a space. And of course, today we know many communities around that very large valley area, from Roseau itself, the heart of where the old factory was located, uh, the Hollywood, as it was known, that community that was actually built as a sort of an improvement of the lot for those persons who would have been working on the estates. And that was done, I think, through what was known as the Sugar Welfare Commission, and an effort to improve the conditions of persons working on those estates. That area was built along with others, such as in the cul-de-sac area, just opposite Saul, in that area, which I think we now know as Susi, and other areas where there was this hope to try to improve housing. This is way back already. And so, of course, you can well appreciate how dated some of these homes are today. And of course, other efforts in other communities to improve the condition of individuals and their lives. And so, of course, there are many of these communities within this Roseau area. As I said, Cooley Town, Mondor, Peru, Bel Air, Vanna, Sarot, Duondo, and then as you go up the valley, you end up with Millet, and of course Millet Techime, Park Estate, and then the somewhat of the heart of it really, the Jacmel, Boisden, Montciseau region of the valley, where most people now find themselves resident, and so capturing their story has been an effort which was being done by a group from that community. And it took them about 8 years to be able to do so. And over the weekend, they were in fact able to launch a very attractive book entitled Stories of Roseau Valley, St. Lucia, West Indies. And the leads, in fact, in making this happen, none other than Primus Hutchinson. And many of you would, of course, know Mr. Hutchinson, perhaps through his days at the Government Information Service, as well, being one of the most renowned Creole language journalists and reporters within the GIS, and a former Miss St. Lucia contestant, I believe, Patricia Lionel. These two individuals were very much a part of pushing the efforts of being able to capture the history of Jean Roseau. There are other individuals who contributed, Mr. Stanislas Albert, Margaret Lubre Aoki, Brian Auguste, although I believe Mr. Auguste is actually not resident in St. Lucia anymore. I think he's based in Canada now, but he made contributions. It's a collection of writings of these individuals. Mrs. Lubre is also no longer resident in Roseau, but in fact lives in Japan. Also contributing to the effort, Father Lambert St. Rose, who in fact was the parish priest at the Holy Family Parish at Jacmel, and as well Mr. Francis Leos, who contributed by virtue of his vast knowledge of understanding the agricultural aspects of that area. He formerly being the managing director of Geest here in St. Lucia. And so it's a really, really interesting production, and includes a historical perspective. It includes reminiscences. It looks at the social aspect of the community, looking at Hollywood. It touches on folklore and cultural traditions, and how people recreated during that period of time. It also seeks to have a bit of intergenerational knowledge, looking at the statements of older individuals from the community and their memories. There's also a piece on Monciso and the East Indian influence within the Roseau Valley. It, in fact, is one of those two areas where we still use and have the name of a coolie town within the valley area, the other being in Vefor. It looks at the history of the banana industry in the valley, the role of the Roseau Combined School from an educational perspective, and of course from a social perspective as well. It looks at the church that it was established at Jacmel, and of course that church has been pretty famous because it actually has a very, very well known mural done by the artist who produced St. Lucia's national banner, a national flag, that of Sir Dunstan St. Thomas of blessed memory, found in that church at Jacmel. Also, it looks at youth and sport, and as well other recent developments within the community. So certainly, it has taken them 8 years to produce this. Lots and lots of research, collating of information, undertaking interviews, because really it was a collaborative effort. As I mentioned, a long list of individuals who submitted stories, and of course the editing of all of those and the reviews and all of that tries to really capture the history and the essence of certainly what is a very important part of St. Lucia, certainly from an economic perspective. It still is significant from an agricultural perspective, and I think it's important to note that. And even after the shift away from this large landholding the properties being divided up into smaller land holdings. That was a major push in terms of some of the reforms to ensure that there was better spread of economic wealth. And so you saw a number um, of landowners taking up that opportunity and in fact became part of what were known as model farms. And these 5 acre, 10 acre plots were very, very, very productive. In fact, at that event was one of those uh, notable farmers, one of the best in the island, Mr. Belas. And according to him, from just his 5 acre plot, at one point he was able to produce about 500 boxes a week of bananas. Very, very high yields. Again, speaking to the productivity and the fertility of the land, but of course, the industriousness of the people of Roseau. So, in as much as quite often, unfortunately, we have issues of gangs and gang violence, and that seems to be something that we quite often hear about coming from certain communities. This effort is really to capture and to highlight the success and the history of the place, to give a sense of place. And quite often, we drive through places and we don't really understand, well, what is the significance of the area? What is the soul and the spirit of the area? And this book, this publication, in its 185 or so pages, really tries to capture that. And so we do hope that it sets a good precedence for other communities, perhaps, so that they too might be able to try to capture their own stories, tell their own story, and in fact ensure that how they are remembered and how people view them can be seen through the lens that they want to actually set for themselves. So kudos to all those who worked on Stories of Roseau Valley and making it happen, because certainly it is actually a very, very rich history indeed. In fact, one of the earliest writings and descriptions of Roseau, that Roseau Valley, actually comes from a French priest by the name of Père Labat, and that goes way back to the year 1700. Maybe after the break, we can actually even take a quick read of what he actually said of his time at Roseau. But that's our dish of the day. When we come back, we will be taking in our weather report.
This has been The Daily Dish.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A plus. Need all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Grizzlies, and Slack Street in Viewfort. Telephone number 453-7939.
Girl, I've been so stressed searching for the perfect tiles to complete my home.
Really?
Yeah, it's always the same white, beige, and gray tiles with these tile stores. Like they're all buying from the same place. You're the design expert. Help me, please. I'm fed up.
What are you looking for?
Something different. Something that says Caribbean beauty and suits my personality. Something vibrant and classy with a little razzle dazzle.
Okay, Ms. Razzle Dazzle, I know just the place. Island Star Tile and Bath, they're my number one store for everything tile. And with their new In Living Color collection, you'll find the most gorgeous styles to give you that splash of Caribbean flair you're looking for.
That sounds perfect.
I'll even take you myself and throw in a free design consultation.
I'll never say no to that, sis. I can't afford you anyway.
Visit our Island Style showrooms in Castries, Rodney Bay, and View Fort, or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. We'll help bring your vision to life in living color.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
And that's of course on the 1.1. It's not time for your weather report as of terminal today, presented by Island Style Talent Bath. The forecast for St. Lucia Valley for the next 24 hours. Winds will be blowing from between the southeast and southeast, southwest and southeast, near 70 miles per hour or 28 kilometers per hour because near showers. The weather partly cloudy to cloudy skies with light to moderate showers and a chance of isolated thunderstorms. And there is an advisory in here which reads small craft operators and sea beavers are advised to exercise extreme caution due to locally rough seas. The forecast for Lily Sand today is cloudy to overcast at times with moderate to heavy showers, gusty winds, and thunderstorms over the Leeward Islands. Elsewhere, partly cloudy to cloudy skies with scattered showers and a chance of isolated thunderstorms. The tropical weather outlook: unstable conditions associated with Tropical Storm Ernesto will continue to affect the Lesser Antilles during the forecast period. At 11 a.m. today, the center of Tropical Storm Ernesto was located near latitude 16.9 north and longitude 62.6 west, or 155 miles or 250 kilometers southeast of St. Croix. Ernesto is moving towards the west-northwest near 18 miles per hour or 30 kilometers per hour. And its general motion is expected to continue through tonight. Maximum sustained winds speeds has increased to near 50 miles per hour or 85 kilometers per hour with higher gusts. Additional strengthening is forecast for Ernesto is expected to become a hurricane by early Wednesday. The center of Ernesto should pass near the Virgin Islands this evening and northeast or north of Puerto Rico tonight or tomorrow. Ernesto is then forecast to turn northwards. I'm going to read this over. Ernesto is then forecast to turn northward over the western Atlantic. A hurricane warning has been issued. A hurricane warning has been issued for the U.S. and British Virgin Islands. Tropical storm warnings remain in effect for the Leeward Islands, Guadeloupe, and the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. A tropical wave located over the eastern tropical Atlantic is moving westward near 12 miles per hour or 19 kilometers per hour. And this was the weather report as of terminal today, presented by Island Style Talent Bath.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Girl, I've been so stressed searching for the perfect tiles to complete my home.
Really?
Yeah, it's always the same white, beige, and gray tiles with the style stores. Like they're all buying from the same place. You're the design expert. Help me, please. I'm fed up.
What are you looking for?
Something different. Something that says Caribbean beauty and suits my personality. Something vibrant and classy with a little razzle dazzle.
Okay, Ms. Razzle Dazzle, I know just the place. Island Style Tile and Bath, they're my number one store for everything tile. And with their new In Living Color collection, you'll find the most gorgeous styles to give you that splash of Caribbean flair you're looking for.
That sounds perfect.
I'll even take you myself and throw in a free design consultation.
I'll never say no to that, sis. I can't afford you anyway.
Visit our Island Style showrooms in Castries, Rodney Bay, and View Fort, or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. We'll help bring your vision to life in living color.
And welcome back to the lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. It's about 18 minutes to go before the hour of 2 o'clock. And of course, the number to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, it is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046, as well as our WhatsApp number, that is 724-0008. Again, 724-0008. We're just sharing that book, which was just recently launched, Stories of Roseau Valley, which was launched at the property at the premises of St. Lucia Distillers down at Roseau on Saturday past. And I'm not too sure of the details as to where it is going to be available, but I believe it is available at a cost of $50. Hoping to get some individuals from that event, some of the promoters, to be able to come on so that they can share some of those details in due course. So we do hope that you could perhaps definitely keep it as one of those very interesting pieces of St. Lucia history and looking at the sociocultural um, context and anthropology of a particular part of St. Lucia. As I had mentioned, it was actually one of the areas very earliest mentioned within the history of St. Lucia, that of Roseau. And even at a time when there weren't very many people even living on St. Lucia. There's actually a piece, and this section is a quote really from the history of the Roman Catholic Church in St. Lucia by Charles Gachet, the first bishop of Castries. But he actually speaks to some description of the area, which was written by a French priest, French Dominican priest by the name of Father Labat. And so I just wanted to share that because it actually does make some mention of his time in Roseau. And so it reads as follows. Another illustrious visitor of the island was humorous Père Labat, OP, or Dominican, who left us an account of his 2-day stay in his memoirs. He landed by the mouth of the Rosa River on September the 25th, 1700 at 5 a.m. We quote Père Labat here as translated and abridged by John Eden from 1931. Quote, this place is about the middle of the leeward coast, and although this island is not inhabited by Caribs, it looks quite wild enough. The only people who lived here are a few persons from Martinique who come over to make canoes and saw acajou planks and other lumber. The bourgeois, or owner of our bark, employed a few carpenters and sawers in St. Lucia and had come there to bring these men provisions and stores and ship all the lumber they had cut. The French settlers in St. Lucia could do no trade during the wars of 1673 and 1688 and had withdrawn one by one to Martinique, Guadeloupe, and other islands stronger and better able to resist raids, so that when I visited the island, there were no other inhabitants than these carpenters. There was nothing to make me wish to land, but hearing that they would not finish loading the bark that day, I decided to take a walk and do a little shooting at the time. That is, if the thick jungle which covers the land near the sea would allow me to do so. I followed a little path, and after killing some perdrix and parrots, I arrived at the workman's ajupa. I found a sufficient store there of wild pig, or boucané, and pigeon to realize that one need not die of hunger. So I sent for my hammock and some biscuits, wine, and brandy, and resolved to spend the night in the woods with our people. As it was the hurricane season, they worked hard till it was late at night, getting their lumber to the beach and putting it on board. The bark could indeed have gone to the cul-de-sac for the night, but this delay would not have suited either the owner of the bark or myself, as I had pressing reasons for wishing to return to Guadeloupe as soon as possible. When they had finished work for the night, we all had supper together, and after saying prayers, we climbed into the hammocks and went to sleep, talking to each other. As soon as it was daybreak, they started work again, while I said my office and then went for a walk. We dined on board the bark, and the men finished loading her by evening. We had supper ashore, and then I went on board, and after a few hours' rest, we set sail at 3 a.m. on the 27th. And I believe that's a very, very short description of Roseau that is coming from 1700. And in those days, as you could well appreciate, that area was not really under any form of agriculture. It would have been a very forested area, pretty much covered with trees. And of course, that was the main goal in those days, really to just extract wood, different forms of wood, of course, some for making furniture and the like. And that was what was going on back 300 years ago at Roseau Bay. Of course, since then, we have seen tremendous change in that Roseau Valley area, and certainly even the rise of tourism. Of course, very nearby Marigot de Roseau, as it was known originally. That area has become certainly a tourist hotspot, including for yachting, with a yacht marina in that location, and certainly still a really important area for attractions, which include things like, as we've seen recently, even rafting on the estuary of the Roseau River, which has become a bit of an attraction. Of course, Roseau is also very important to our national water supply, because the reality is that if you are living up in the north of the island, the water that you are drinking, the water that you're using to bathe and to do all sorts of things, is actually coming from that Roseau River. And so certainly it is very, very important in terms of the conservation of the upper catchment area, and the maintenance of that forest cover, so that in fact our water can in fact be water supply can be maintained and kept secure. Now, of course, we can continue talking about Roseau perhaps for quite some time, but if you do want to, you can call in. The number to do so is 452 3046. Again, 452 3046. But I think we do have a call coming in. Let's actually take that call as we try to pull it up. Good afternoon and welcome to the lunchroom. What's on your plate today?
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, caller. How are you doing?
How are you, Mr. George?
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, the wife, your child, everybody all right?
They're all very blessed. Thanks for asking.
Okay. Dr. Reynolds has written a next book, eh?
I'm not sure. He's writing all the time, so I'm not even too sure what you're referring to as the next one. But I also should have mentioned that he, in fact,
well, that's not the latest one.
He in fact was the publisher, Jacko Productions, Dr. Reynolds. So in fact,
if he's the author.
He's not the author, but he's the publisher.
Okay.
So his company published it.
Most of the books now, but there have been some he has written, eh?
There are a number of books that he's written, yes.
Yeah, because
Dr. Anderson Reynolds.
I find there's one particular one, I don't remember the name, where he gives some real valuable information on the community of Forestier in times past.
Okay.
And that's a sort of remote place, eh?
Right.
You didn't hear much from,
Mm-hmm.
And I find he was very, precise in a lot of the things he said, and because I know the community,
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
And, so I think, if he's involved, I kind of would like to think that he will do justice to it,
Yes,
to
yes,
Roseau.
yes.
Yeah.
He's done quite a number of pieces, both fictional stories as well as analyses. I think he's done work on George Odlum, for instance. I think he
Yes,
did a
yes, yes,
interesting piece
yes.
there. But
Yeah,
he's captured stuff
that's
about
good.
VA4, of course, which is where he's from. So yeah, he certainly he's been very prolific.
Yeah, and he's a man who has diversified because he's an economist, I think.
Okay, yeah,
That's
I
what he
see.
studied. He has
Yes.
a doctorate in something to do with economics.
Hmm. And he's certainly also been promoting his work, I think, in the diaspora. So he makes a point of.
But and he promoted a lot of musicians, music in the South,
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
he's into
yes,
that too, So I mean, he's a man that's worthy of our recognition, in Saint Lucia. But
yes,
he's a
certainly.
very humble, unassuming kind of person.
Very, very, very humble gentleman.
Yeah.
Doesn't toot his own horn at all. But certainly he has made a pretty wonderful contribution. And in fact, so that's why I'm saying he, in
And
fact,
he continues. He just,
and so in effect, he was assisting it by becoming the publisher. He became the publisher for for this one and guided the authors in how to actually get it, get it onto
He
the
seems to
shelves.
be not self-centered, in all about him, but helping develop others,
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that's a really good quality about him too,
Mm-hmm.
But quickly on sports, because I mean I love that topic. Anyway,
Yes, of course.
you don't think that okay, there in fact there are a number, especially in recent times. There quite a few of our young people have you know achieved secondary education through the sporting ability. You're aware of that?
Achieved secondary education through
Sorry,
the tertiary. Oh yes, yes, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. In fact, it's very active. In fact, I think we'd be very surprised to know the number of St. Lucians who are out in sports scholarships in the United States, in particular.
So you think we as a people already aware of that? I mean, in terms of providing the data, the stats on this or on that.
I personally don't have the exact
especially
data. No,
to the young people in schools and so on.
that's a very good question. I'm not sure how well they know of what is available. I do know that there are, I mean, for instance, individuals like Terry Finisterre, they very much follow and are part of this effort of
and
to.
The youth used to do a lot of promotion. When especially this gentleman, I forget his name, but I think he fell out of grace and had to leave the organization. The youth thing, I forget his name, but the one thing he did, and he must be commended for, was to promote that aspect. And he was very, very close in touch with most of the people who are up in the colleges and universities and so on, outside of St. Lucia, who got opportunities through sports. He monitored and reported on the progress, not only in the sports but academics. He kept us. He had this news thing letter on the online that you could go there and see just about what every student was doing.
Okay.
And I don't know if that still exists. If there's anybody who has filled the void after him, because I know that for a fact because my son was on one such scholarship, and
I can't remember who you're speaking about, but I do take the point.
I forget his name, but you remember a youngster who you remember the youth organization had some kind of disruption due to something, I think it had to do with what is
You speaking about the NYC?
yeah,
Oh, okay, okay.
yeah.
I can't quite remember the exact thing, but
Yeah.
but it is a needed
It's something
aspect.
that brought the organization and himself, the person, to disrepute.
I see.
I
Okay.
don't care to go there
Mm-hmm.
now, but yeah. But the point is, where he did a lot of work in that regard,
Right.
and I don't know, well, since his demise, since he left, there doesn't seem to be, or maybe it's I am not going and look out for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And like you say, Terry finished, they did a bit of it also. You know what I'm saying? But I'm saying that if we go to because like we all on the Julian Alfred success. That's good, but they have maybe hundreds who will never make it to
Mm-hmm.
Olympics.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Who would
Not even just that. They will probably be hundreds too who will make it to the Olympics and may not medal. So
all that too.
So it's,
and there'll be also hundreds who will not even make it to St. Lucia national team.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because if things become competitive,
right.
But the fact is that what we want to drive home is that the benefit of sport,
Mm-hmm.
as a economic activity. Directly, if you go you make it as a professional, you know what I mean, or if you
I mean,
a career,
yeah, and there's some
or indirectly if through education, because then your education, advanced education, has an economic thing in it. Benefit.
right.
So all, but I see we need to promote. We need to do more promotion. We're not promoting enough, because even this semi-pro league we have, we're not promoting it, enough. It's not in your face, it's not in your air, and we need to do much more of that, Alex.
Mm-hmm.
We sometimes just gloss over things and they say, and then there's a big, hurrah when something happens,
There's also a factor that I just want to touch on, because I've been hearing it coming up and saying that well, but Julian had to go over to Jamaica and then she had to go over to the United States, so we cannot take the credit for her, right? Basically, and this is the kind of argument I'm hearing. But we have to be realistic as well. We are an island of less than 200,000 people.
Come on, man.
We're an island of less than 200,000 people. The extent of the competition that you can probably generate, we don't even know what it is. I mean, it might be that you have lots and lots of great people, yes, and that's good. But you cannot expect that can be the sum total of your world. And so by virtue of that, there has to be international and regional and international exposure and competition. You will not be able to stay in the small fish bowl and expect that the fish is going to grow bigger and bigger and bigger.
Ideally, you can't live in a bubble. You
cannot.
You can't exist in a bubble, my brother.
Yeah. And so the reality is that
Walcott and Lewis, I mean, imagine Walcott becoming what he became if he stayed in St. Lucia.
Well, exactly.
What he had to leave.
Exactly.
What he left behind.
But what is telling?
He saw his mentor being he became his mentor became tormented.
Yes. But what is telling about all these?
About, of course,
his mentor, Mr. Harry Simmons. You referring
Harry?
To? Yes. Yeah.
But this gentleman was so badly we don't speak about him because maybe his end seemed to be disgrace or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But still, we need to talk about these things,
Yeah.
He was tormented. He was in a society where that paid so little attention and to art and culture and
right.
these
Right.
sort of things,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
And you know,
It's a
I
very
mean,
good point that you're also making, because that you have to be able to. The reality is, for a small country, we will never have at this point the kind of resource base
no,
to
it can't see you through to
compare.
international
Yeah.
greatness. No,
Right.
because
So it is
you know,
inevitable. It is inevitable that individuals.
everybody has to go overseas.
Yeah.
Marcus Garvey, everybody has to travel, and you know,
And isn't that exactly what we want? It's world attention, right? World
of course. So
affirmation.
if you want
So
that, how you can stay in your bubble,
right. So
you know.
it.
But last thing I want to mention is that, you know, sometimes, you know, because I went to SMC, and so did your father. I don't know for you. You
Yes,
did?
I did.
And I don't know what it was like in your era, but in your father's era and my era, you had these gentlemen, the presentation brothers. These people were totally committed to the sporting aspect of a well-rounded education, you know.
Yeah.
Eh?
That I think that point
Totally
is
committed to
really
that, you know.
important. Yes.
In other words, these people would make you feel you love sport, you love a sport, will go all the way. We're there with you. And in fact, we support you, we'll help you to be the best you can without necessarily making you feel you'll compromise your academics. You understand?
It was a part of the curriculum, in fact. And what it also struck
Absolutely.
me.
In other words, you didn't get graded according to it, you know, officially,
Right.
as, you know, curriculum stuff where, you know, but it was so, it's like, it's going for SMC, it was inescapable. That's why I tell you, you know, like, some people, you know, I know some people who have become makers and shakers, you know, in the wider society, having left school, and then sometimes I recall and I see, well, but what this person was. I mean, you got to show you're a leader. You know, in other words, you could have shown you were something in SMC, in
Right.
whatever you pursued, you know.
Yeah, and
And
because of course there are values within sport that are
exactly,
useful, that
exactly,
translate into the real world, and
exactly,
good sportsmanship really
exactly,
has a lot of importance in
exactly,
everyday
because
life.
yeah, there were people like maybe your father and myself. I went through after we completed A level. We went into teaching one time before. I don't know if your father did that. I did that, and you would be allowed to be a teacher. You know,
Yes.
if you're good enough academically.
Right. I had
You
the
know,
benefit of
you
doing
come
that
through
for a
with your
year
A
as well.
levels or whatever.
Yeah.
But there were also some who were not so above the academics, but they would get a blight because they were committed to cadets. You know,
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were committed to sports. For example, Ronnie Goddard is one such person. He
Okay.
became a teacher, but he wasn't. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know if you heard of him. I know it. Then
In
you
football,
have the
I've heard
different
of,
people.
yes.
I don't care to call names, you know, but different people who would come through, and the brothers would make, you know, and some of these people became even better teachers than those who had academic prowess. You understand? Because being good in a subject doesn't mean that you could teach it, you know, effectively. But these
Well,
are the people.
Caller,
Yeah?
as you're saying all of that, because my father in fact said that um, Julian is named after her grandfather, who went to St. Mary's College and who was a very, very good athlete, as I was told. By the name of, and his name was Julien, I believe it was. And her,
Michael Hippolyte.
Hippolyte, right? And
Michael Hippolyte.
and
Julien. I know him
her
well.
uncle,
We
her granduncle, is also a very good athlete. I was told, Pint. So he was making the point that actually,
these are CDC people that, you know, I mean, these kind of people mentor us in CDC.
okay,
You know,
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
Julian thing, Michael Ippolit Julien played just about every sports on earth
Mm.
on a national level and good
Okay.
at it too.
Okay. Okay.
You know, if they used to have marbles national, he would be playing that too every damn thing, man. You know what I mean?
Well, maybe that
Yeah,
got
but
passed
I
on
heard
somehow.
somebody in that. In fact, Julien's son, Michael Bock Jobatis, was a national footballer. You understand? And he was the one telling me that recently, quite recently, that his father gave me the link between his father and Julian Alfred. And but your father must be know more about that than me,
Well, caller,
because
we'll have to leave that there,
I
though.
heard that's disputed.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever the case may be.
Okay,
But
but
have a good
yeah,
one, though, caller.
yeah.
And of course, we'll be
Thank
back
you.
again tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you,
Thanks very
thank
much
you.
for the contribution. And of course, we will be back tomorrow, God willing, for another program. Hope you can join us for that one. I'm your host, Alex George Jr., saying goodbye.